Hello, welcome to Lave Wargaming. This is War in the Pacific, Admiral's Edition, set up for the December 15th, 1941 turn. Where we left off, we had a pretty bad turn for us for the 14th. In the South Pacific, we had presumably the USS Lexington battle group ambush our landings at Rabaul, so we got our surface covering forces in place to protect us from enemy cruisers, just in time for the threat to change to carriers. So that did not go too well for us. We also had an enemy surface task force in the South China Sea evade one of our covering forces and strike an amphibious task force. So once again, we had amphibious task forces hit. This, however, the 15th, is setting up to be an opportunity to really change the tide. It looks like this is going to be a very eventful turn all around. Over in China, I don't want to get too much into the specifics of this, but you can just kind of see, looking at the map, we have contact with enemy units kind of all over the place. And this is because nearly all of the work we've done to free up garrisons, or to consolidate garrisons, I should say, to free up units for frontline combat, is nearly over. And really the only thing that was holding that operation up was the blocking of this rail line over here. And now that that was just opened up last turn, we're going to move the last few units that we move around, and China is going to start becoming a lot more fluid. Basically taking out these targets of opportunity that are out in the open, and then we're going to start doing real work. Over here, in a prior turn, I mentioned I was trying to set up a little bit of a cap trap here at Kwanton. So that's going to be in place this turn. It's just going to be these two cargo ships. They're going to come out, one hex, see if we can tempt the bombers at Singapore to attack. Got 3 squadrons of Oscars waiting to greet them. Meanwhile, the Zeros are going to be resting a bit, doing local caps, and well, let's just say Singapore is in range, whether they're coming from Kota Bharu or Kwanton, and we don't know if we're actually going to be able to tempt these guys into allowing us to reduce their numbers. So we may have to go to them, and that's fine, because I've got 3 squadrons of Oscars here, and looks like 2 squadrons plus 2 detachments of Zeros over here. Or no, 1 squadron and 3 detachments of Zeros. So, one way or another, the air campaign against Singapore is just about ready to start. Turning over to the Philippines, this starts getting really interesting. So we've got 3 submarines over here. I noticed this during the end of the replay last turn. I don't know what they're doing here, but it's a very good possibility that these are damaged submarines that have gotten out of Manila, and they're just stopped here because they don't have much of a choice. They're taking on water, and they just need to stop wherever they can to help patch up those holes so they can make it to the next base. So for now, these minesweepers that were on minesweeping duty at Jolo are switching over to anti-submarine duty, and we're going to go over here. And, you know, if these guys are still there and hanging out in shallow water, we'll depth charge them in the shallows. If they're too damaged to dive, we're happy to gun them down. Meanwhile, we don't know who this task force is, that's fine. These guys, 2 light cruisers. Well, that's kind of interesting, because I know that 1 light cruiser, the Durban's been kind of a bane in my sides, and we know he last was sighted heading into the Sulu Sea area. Likewise, the last incident over by Kuching involved a pair of light cruisers, including the Marblehead. So maybe it's possible that these guys are more or less evading me by coming over here and just kind of disbanding. They're right at the edges of search areas, so it might be a little bit easier for them to evade contact, and maybe that's why they've been able to disappear and disband into this port. This port appears to have 10 ships in it, including a destroyer. So that's kind of a remarkable concentration for basically a nothing island with a nothing-sized port. So there's something going on here. So that's going to be Carrier Division 2's assignment for the day. We're moving into position, and we're going to hit these ships in port. Plus naval strike orders for anybody that decides they want to come out. Also, since these guys are in port, and there's a possibility of ships just kind of hanging out here on the surface, nobody's bigger than a battleship around here. So these battleships are detaching from Carrier Division 2, and they're going to go right in. We continue to have contacts for the ports in Clark and over here at Batangas. We had a port attack take place at Clark last turn, and it hit absolutely nothing. So we're shifting focus a little bit, and the port attacks are going to be divided between trying to finish these guys off at Manila and hitting this new concentration of ships that we're seeing at Batangas. And this looks like a fairly substantial naval presence. I mean, these classifications are notoriously inaccurate, but even if there's any accuracy to these, an oiler, a transport, 3 submarine tenders, possibly 2 destroyers, that's a really juicy target. So yeah, we're going to be moving up surface forces up into this area, clouding this up, and you know, this could be the site of another bombardment, and obviously getting bomber attention for now. Also an interesting development up here, these guys moving to reinforce San Fernando, not unexpected. A little unexpected is some number of whoever's trying to defend Clark is going to try to engage the roughly division strength unit that we just put down in Cowabunga. Well, this is open terrain, so guess what that means? It means they're leaving their fortifications, they're leaving their defensive bonus, and they're going to be out in the open. So maybe it's a stronger unit than me, maybe it's not, but we'll see just how strong they are when they're being bombed relentlessly out in the open. For now, they're going to get some preliminary bomber attacks while they still have that jungle rough cover, mostly just to slow them down. I'm not in that much of a hurry to get into a battle of attrition with these guys out in Cabana, Tuan. Meanwhile, just about everything we wanted to reinforce over here is ashore now. 65th Brigade is just about ready to arrive here, and pretty much the rest of the other division. What division was it? 47th Division. They're going to be on the move soon. So this little delay over at San Fernando's probably coming to an end. 65th Division by themselves might be enough to break this stalemate. Of course, that could change if these guys get in there, but we still have light bombers attacking these guys to slow them down. So we have major roads, and we're able to move in move mode. They have a partial road connection. Oh, not even that. They do not have a road connection. They're moving in rough territory, and they're being bombed. They're not going to move very fast. Just as a little bit of extra security, if any of these guys are trying to get away while they're getting, bombed from Carrier Division 2 from the south and getting bombed by Bettys and Nels from the north, the baby KB is moving back into the Celebes Sea, standing by to conduct naval strikes on any escapees. Wake, I decided to hold off. Here, I'll show you the fatigue and disruption's just too high. Give it a day. No rush there. Now, down over to here. So when the Lexington attacked, it looked like the threat bearing indicator on Rabaul was coming from over here. Now, I'd say there was a pretty good chance we would have detected them by our scout planes if they were there, and we didn't. Maybe that's actually who this is. It wouldn't be this guy. I don't see why they would get that close. It seems unnecessary. So they might be around here. They could be anywhere around here. We know they didn't pull out during the turn because they attacked during the afternoon too. So they may be pulling out in the overnight phase. They might try to stick around. I mean, there's plenty of other juicy targets they've detected. The second attempt at Cowabunga's right there. I mean, these guys are still there. It includes heavy surface support unit. I mean, if he thought it was okay to throw his carriers in to defend Rabaul for one turn, maybe he thinks it's safe to do it for two. I don't know. Honestly, this seems like a very uncharacteristic move for my opponent. Based on playing him for the first time, he seemed highly defensive of his carriers. They tended to appear and disappear, but they did usually appeared in such a way that they were quite decisive. Not only decisive, but it was often in situations where they really weren't putting themselves in that much danger to begin with. I may be able to box him in here. Now, I don't know that I can. Part of the reason is I don't actually know where he is, and part of the reason is the fuel situation, as I hinted at while we were looking at the end of the last turn. So Carrier Division 3, Shokaku and Suikaku are well-fueled, but the rest of the task force is not. So that's a problem. To deal with this problem, I'm taking some of these larger ships over here. Oh, wait. Yeah. These larger ships are going to go ahead and lend some of their fuel to them. That's going to cost me a few ops points, but Carrier Division 1 is going to be covering them, so not a huge concern if they kind of get stuck for a little bit. Carrier Division 1 is pretty much fully fueled. Yeah, very close. Kaga's at 96%. Yeah, Kagi's fully fueled. So they're good to go. So these guys are actually proceeding at top speed. I'm going to try to overtake Carrier Division 3 and come over down to here in case we have an enemy carrier up here that is looking to get away this way, or, you know, down to the south and then turning east. I don't want to send these guys too far ahead of Division 3, mostly because, you know, the Enterprise appeared in the Marshals recently, so why get into a 2-on-2 if I can make it a 4-on-2? And, you know, for all I know, the Saratoga's in the area as well. I think the Saratoga's had enough time to get into the fight. So we definitely want these divisions to be mutually supporting each other, and actually I'm probably going to go ahead and reunite them next turn. I don't see the point in reunifying them just yet when, you know, one of the task forces is so low on fuel. So, yeah, so that's going to do it for now. So we'll see you at the combat replay, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be a busy day, even if half the stuff we're thinking could potentially happen this turn. It's going to be a pretty busy day. So hopefully it goes well. We'll see you then. Alright, so quick update on the December 15th turn. I got a text message this morning from my opponent, kind of bragging about his success over here at Rabaul, messing with my transports. And what he mentioned was that these were dive bombers that had transferred from the Lexington to Rabaul as opposed to flying from the Lexington. And Man, this is embarrassing because in hindsight, this is really obvious, right? There's, about the right number of bombers here at Rabaul. It would have been 32 for two dive bomber squadrons, and he took some losses. So these aren't like Hudsons or Whirlaways, which is what I sort of assumed. And the that threat indicator bearing line that comes out of the task force being struck, that tells you the direction that the airstrike is coming from. It was basically a tiny little dash on the first turn, or on the AM phase, and it was pointing, that dash was pointed up and to the right, which is right in my search areas. Yeah, so that was a hint. The carriers get a detection level when they launch airstrikes, and there's no carriers visible on the map. That was a hint. And yeah, in the PM phase, that threat direction bearing line was just a dot. It wasn't even a dash anymore. So that really should have been obvious. So anyways, speaking of obvious, there's kind of an obvious way that this is supposed to work out. He knows that, because he told me, he knows that I know he's got dive bombers here, so they need to leave, because if they don't leave, the surface task force that I have here are going to go ahead and shell the base and blow up his planes, so he can't have that. So they're going to fly back to the carrier this turn. Meanwhile, knowing that he has bombers here, which maybe he doesn't fly them back after all, I have to do the bombardment. I'm more or less obligated. So I've broken off these 2 battleships and 2 destroyers from the invasion task force, and they're going to go ahead and shell the base, and it's probably going to be empty, but that's fine. We can't allow it to possibly not be empty, because if these aren't just Whirlaways and Hudsons, and these are dive bombers, the amount of damage that they can do to my task force is exponentially greater. So yeah, and then as for trying to catch the Lexington, there's going to be no rush between these carrier divisions. We're just going to move into the area, start supporting, maybe creep down a little bit and see if we can catch them around New Caledonia. But for right now, no need to really step on the gas. So with that quick update, we'll see you when the combat replay is ready. Thanks. And away we go. December 15th, combat replay underway. Hopefully don't get shot up on the beach too much here. Alright, doing okay with the sun down. Let's see if that holds up when the sun comes up. Alright, here's our bombardment at Rabaul. Let's see if we destroy any Dauntlesses and Vindicators, or if they've vacated. Nope, just casualties. So, as expected, the Lexington's aircraft have been pulled out. Ooh, who have we here? Is that the Adelaide? Triumphant. A few French destroyers in the game. Well, you're fighting battleships, bud. It's 7,000 yards, we better be able to get it. Yes, he's already scored 2 hits on our battleships. And he's close enough to shoot torpedoes. Come on, we've got to hit this guy. 4,000 yards, come on. slow transport ships, some of which are already shot up. Possibly pretty slow. Ah, jeez, getting more armor hits on Yamashiro. Why can't we hit him? Come on, he's only 2,000 units away. Show me the superior Japanese night gunnery. Thank you. Just a destroyer hitting him, though. And he's hitting us again. Oh, wonderful. It's actually causing serious damage to my ships, and we can't hit anything but water. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. This look like secondary battery hits, but secondary battery on a battleship is still not that small. Another one of my destroyers hit. Don't let this guy get away.
Hello, all you poor GIs and Marines.
Just
this
wow.
is Orphan Ann at Radio Tokyo,
Heavy fires,
bringing
heavy
you some
damage from
hot
one
music
hit over here.
and another blow to your morale. Today, our High Command announced that the Imperial Navy has achieved another great victory near Rabaul, with the sinking of 2 carriers, a battleship, and numerous cruisers and destroyers.
I really wish he wasn't so loud compared to all the other sounds. So yeah, I mean, we didn't seriously damage him, really. At least we set him on fire. But, I mean, some of these hits were pretty bad. The hit on the destroyer was bad. This hit on the DMS looks critical. Yeah, that was horrible. Oh yeah. Oh, love to see that in the beginning of one of these fights. We need sub-kills. Already got 3 hits on him. Come on. Don't let him get away. Come on. Damn it. Well, at least we had one solid connection. We just had a cruiser sink? Please tell me that had to be some kind of an error. I know our cruisers took some significant damage from the shore batteries, but it shouldn't have been lethal. Alright, looking for ships in port here. There it is. Hit on a destroyer in port, hit on a PG. Hit on the Thanet. Oh yeah. PG Asheville hit. Destroyer Thanet hit again. Cargo ship. Cargo ship again. Destroyer hit. Tanker hit. Yeah. Hell yeah. Not bad at all. 3 enemy ships with heavy damage, including the pesky Thanet. Ooh, it's a small ship in the port. Little added bonus there. Fires. Didn't expect fires. Is this a resource-producing hex, I guess? Only non-combat squads getting hit. Maybe Kagayan's not as strong as I thought. nice to hear some sinking sounds that are not accompanied by a message that one of my ships is sinking. So these guys are really just landing at Cowabunga to save them. Both their ships are damaged. Or I should say the task force has been split up into two. So I just want to get some of these troops ashore before the ships are sunk, because I don't want to lose any complete units. Which reminds me, between turns I did check and verify that even with all the ships that were sunk at Rabaul, thanks to the Lexington's dive bombers, I did not lose any full ground units. It was only partial units being destroyed. Yeah, so now that the sun's come up, as expected, we are taking hits from the coastal batteries. Yep, same story here, even when we've got battleships supporting. Which is kind of interesting, because the battleships aren't even in the amphibious task force anymore. I split them off into the bombardment task force, yet they were still present for the surface battle with the Le Triomphant, and they were present to suppress the shore batteries during the invasion. Alright, so we do have 2 task forces reported unloading at Cowabunga. Great news. So I think this is going to be an AVP, yes, up against light cruisers and destroyers of mine, so hopefully an easy kill. Well, nice knowing you, Heron. Of course, my guys have to waste tons of ammunition now. Just skip to the end. And we've encountered another task force. PT boats this time. This could be the same task force. Goodbye. Don't often see these guys survive hits. Come on, don't let him get away. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, here we go. This is probably going to be the De Ruyter, and who was the other one? The Marblehead, yes. Alright, something of a fair fight this time. 3 light cruisers of ours versus 2 of his. Supporting destroyers. Clearly we've got numbers on our side. Oh, I said it was the De Ruyter, it's actually the Java. And they're getting the first hits. Come on, guys. Dutch Navy isn't known for its accuracy in this game. These American ships aren't known for being particularly powerful. Yeah, the American destroyers are basically interwar designs. These are not modern destroyers by any means. Of course, I don't really know the Japanese destroyers that well, so I couldn't say if ours are comparable. We are taking hits. We have a ship that's seriously damaged before any of theirs are seriously damaged. I don't know why so many torpedoes are being fired at small maneuverable ships at 13,000 yards. What a waste. There we go. Marblehead's resisting our hits. So I will say this, the Marblehead probably is the best ship here in terms of surface combat. Japanese light cruisers really aren't that well armed, or to the extent that they are well armed, they're good at taking out smaller ships. They're really not that great for taking on other cruisers. Stop trying to hit these guys and hit these guys. Ah. Yeah, the American rounds had no trouble getting through my light cruiser's armor. And we take another bad hit. So disappointing. If we could at least slow these guys down, we could almost guarantee an airstrike on them. But if these guys are going to be able to just walk away at full speed... It's disturbing. We've got them outnumbered, and except for the Marblehead being the best ship here, pretty much outgunned too. And yet it's our ships that are belching dark smoke. And we're supposed to have the more experienced Navy right now, too. Can't even get through the armor on the Dutch light cruiser. Task forces are going to be disengaging. We're out of time to get good hits on these guys, and we get hit again. And a bad one. Armor hit. We might lose that ship. Well, very disappointing. Lots of hits for the enemy. We didn't do so great. And we have casualties. You know what? I accidentally loaded, like, a unit fragment on one of these ships. I wonder if that's actually affected us, maybe because they're transporting troops. It's actually decreasing their combat effectiveness. Not sure about that. Well, it's enough to get us to disengage. Alright, the Gudgeon wants to take us on in shallow water, but we do not prosecute. Oh, this isn't good. Why do these guys not have zeros flying with them? This is going to be really bad. I'm so lucky the Americans are inexperienced at this point, because if these guys were actually good, that would have been worse. It looked like 9 planes lost. Well, make it 10. No, that would have been the 9th. Alright, so 9 planes down, thanks to 12 enemy fighters. And all we've got for it is heavy damage on a US destroyer. That is not good. I really should be drawing 0 escorts from Vigan. It's not like this is too far for the Zeros to fly. That's why they're forward deployed. They're part of the same command. I'm fairly sure that they're assigned to the right altitude. I'll have to verify that, but that is disappointing. Oh, jeez, again? Okay. Alright, mild damage down there. I think we were getting worse damage on these guys before. I think maybe they were packed up for strategic movement before, and that's why we were taking or giving them higher casualties. And maybe they're back in combat mode now, so we're not getting as much damage. Yeah, completely ineffective there. No, maybe this is why we didn't have Zeros escorting the Nels. They're too busy escorting hands. Whole lot of nothing. Well, maybe we're knocking them out of move mode. Nice. Better than I expected in that terrain. Oh, there's thunderstorms over here too. Well, it's a different base. Oh no, the Dauntlesses are back. Alright, the armor soaked that hit. That shouldn't be too bad. Alright, so I don't see a threat line. So that would seem to imply that they're flying out of Rabaul, but if that's the case, how did we not more or less wipe them out with the battleship bombard? Huh. Yeah, and the Vindicators are still here. Alright, belt armor only. Deck armor. Yeah, all things considered, it could have been worse. I'd rather have them hitting the battleships and not getting through the armor than tearing up the transports, that's for sure. Wonder who this is. Wonder if that's the Le Triomphant. Yeah. 1,000 feet. Slightly better than pointless, I guess. Yeah, Wildcats are gonna strafe us. And they get hits. Yeah, it's good use of these aircraft. It's not like they're going anywhere. Not quite as successful as Wake's Wildcats in real life, but kinda close. Ah, now they're going after the transports. Guess we got lucky with just one hit and not heavy damage. Get away from the nade only to get shot down by flak. You hate to see it. I hate B-17s. Well, I'm playing as the Japanese anyways. Just takes us too long to have an answer to them. Damn it. Oh man, 101 casualties? Who is that? Why do we still have a ship with troops there? Ooh. Ships at PH. Wonder if those ships are inbound or outbound. Heh. Looks like they're putting up a lot more aircraft. Bigger cap this turn than we've seen in a while. These Zeros have actually been assigned to low-altitude attack. Trying to deal with some of the smaller ships that my dive bombers and torpedo bombers don't seem to want to be bothered with. So we're outnumbered here and not going well so far. I don't really care if the Zeros are jettisoning their ordnance. As far as I'm concerned, the P-40s are more important targets than whatever ships they were going to try to strafe or bomb. Yeah, just keep jettisoning away. Get the fighters. Of course, since these guys are on a low-altitude attack mission, that means these American fighters have to come down to the altitude Zeros love to play at. So these turning fights should very much be to our advantage, except for the fact that we got outnumbered. We're not outnumbered anymore. And we still get through. Oh, I would have loved to kill a Minesweeper. Oh well. So 2 zeros down compared to 4 P40s, so not too bad. But Manila will definitely need more sweeps. Hey, we've actually got a ship at Hong Kong with heavy damage. Not bad. I'm a little disappointed the port attacks aren't causing base damage. Maybe giving them an opportunity to build up forts. I should probably switch some of these guys to airfield attack. Yeah, it's not like the light bombers are doing any damage to the ground forces. Might as well hit the airbase instead. Oh, come on. Where are these guys coming from? Seriously. Well, at least they're hitting the armor. At least they're hitting the armor. Well, no armor up here. It's definitely the smarter target for them to hit. That's a kill. Damn it. Ooh, what's going on here? Apparently, I need to do a range adjustment. Because my Nels want to go after targets in Singapore, which may not be the smartest thing for them to do. So when I advanced them to Kota Baru, I set a range limitation to make sure they didn't attack anybody beyond the range that they could attack with torpedoes, but I did not limit them to keep them away from that concentration of enemy fighters in Singapore. So, we're now seeing the result of that. A lot of my Zeros are resting or providing local cap. I don't think I have my Zeros assigned to long-range cap this turn. I think right now the Oscars are doing that. But the long and short of it is I did not have all that many Zeros assigned to escort. So I've got a relatively low complement of Zeros coming here. Silver lining is Buffaloes are just bad. And this is a relatively high altitude battle for this phase of the war anyway, or at least for the Buffalo. The Buffalo's performance is absolutely horrible, especially as it gets higher. And even though high altitude isn't where the Zero thrives, I think it might actually have more of an advantage against the Buffalo at high altitude than it does at low altitude, because the Buffalo's just that bad. So I haven't seen any shoot-downs yet. So that's... Yeah, the enemy numbers are just getting higher and higher. There's potential for quite a few losses here. Nope, the Zeros managed to keep him off. Oh, don't tell me this is all we're attacking. We risked that for HDMLs. Wow. So that was 72 Buffaloes on cap. Good to know. Good to know. You know what that means? That means there aren't very many fighters assigned to escort duty. Maybe I'm more afraid of these torpedo bombers than I need to be. If they're not going to have fighter escorts, they're not going to get through much. Something to consider. Oh, wow. Oh my god. That ain't the Le Triomphe font that we have a contact on there. That is probably the Enterprise. VB6, that's the Enterprise. 45 dive bombers might be too high for a single carrier. So that might be the Enterprise and the Lexington. Yeah, VB2, Enterprise and Lexington. They're working over this amphibious task force pretty good. But all that stuff I was saying about possibly being able to box the enemy carriers in, and then I thought it wasn't going to happen because it turned out they had transferred their aircraft to Rabaul rather than bringing the ships in themselves. Like, these guys are in a horrible position. Yeah, I'm pausing for a moment to just think about it here. Like, what's his likely course out of here? I guess it would have to be south or south. Well, I guess he would pull him out to the southwest, wouldn't he? Pull him into the Solomon Sea. So if that's the case, maybe get some subs over here if they've worked their way in? And if I can get carrier divisions 1 and 3, maybe just this side of the Solomons this turn? We'll see. We'll see during the setup. Wow, even the Devastators are getting involved. Yeah, this is quite a commitment. I wonder how bad the Mutsu really is damaged. The fires have gotten pretty bad, but I don't think it took an armor-penetrating bomb hit in any of this. Yeah, we knew all that was going to happen. Did we attack him, or did he attack us? We attacked him. Ooh, who are these guys? Yeah, definitely interested in those guys to the north. These coastal batteries are nasty. I think the heavy cruisers that I've left here and did not send to truck are going to need to do a bombardment assignment to suppress these guys a little bit, especially since I'm planning on attacking. Alright, land combat phase. Got a decently powerful Gurkha division here. Or, I keep saying division when I shouldn't. It's a brigade. Yeah, we actually took some vehicle losses here. Alright, so this is intended mostly as a probing attack. I can see I have a major advantage in attack value over this force, so that's going to be an attack. This is not a probing attack. This is a rout. Unlike a lot of recent combats, we actually are getting destroyed units here, although, you know, small price to pay proportionally. One-to-one odds over here. Yeah, still worked out pretty well. Armor versus troops that apparently don't have a lot of anti-tank weapons. This looks like it's not going to go well. Yep, still got him. Alright, 65th Brigade has arrived, along with tank regiment fragments. Alright, I'm calling it now. San Fernando falls tomorrow. Should be an easy win. No casualties on our side. Like to see that. Japanese shock attack on Wake. I could have sworn I turned this off. Oof. Yeah, I'm not sure that was worth it. Which is okay. So maybe, or maybe the attack was automatic. Was that why? Maybe I was still landing troops, and because I was still landing troops, they attacked automatically. Yeah, we've got high disruption. Casualties were, I mean, bad, but when you consider how low the Allies' AV is, we got level 0 fortifications, and the odds are 1-to-1. I mean, that's a condition for an overrun, basically. Maybe I do attack. Maybe an attack plus a naval bombardment. That's enough for an overrun. This could be pretty close, especially if there's forts. Yeah, 1-to-2, fort level 1. Casualties look pretty disproportionate. Yeah, numbers of troops are basically even, so they're taking 5 times their casualties. So, this looks like a sustain. Yeah, this will be an easy win. And they just surrender. This 49th Australian, I think, is a reinforcement. Don't mind me just writing down the AV of the Allies here. That's pretty funny. It's an Allied bombardment attack. The Allies are the only ones taking casualties. Alright, so with this turn coming to a close, I'm kind of blown away. So, as much as I take to be, or I hate to be taking losses from these hit-and-run attacks, and, you know, from these 2 carriers, this now the 3rd attack that we've sustained from the enemy carriers. You know, I'm not even mad. We have a real shot at these ships. So we'll talk about that later. Let's go into Tracker real quick. Alright, so we're back over here in Tracker. We can see that in spite of the losses we've been taking, We're still gaining in victory points, although the rate from that has gone down in the last few turns. These being some of our not just some of our, the lowest two point gains that we've had in the campaign so far. You know, and that's clearly being driven by naval losses, I'd have to say. So looking at air losses for the day, considering we usually have significantly more kills against the Allies, this is a pretty bad day in the air. 13 aircraft shot down and 7 ops losses. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Plus we had a ground loss. I'm not even sure how that happened. It's an ALF. So that, I'm sure once we look at sunk ships, we'll see a cruiser that went down. We did get a message saying that a cruiser went down. I kind of didn't want to believe it. But that's probably going to be one of the 2 light cruisers that got shot up by shore batteries over at Rabaul. Anyway, so 11 Nels lost, and this is really mostly because I just didn't have escorts for them. So that's just disappointing. Maybe I need to rely on sweeps a little bit more, not only in Clark and Manila, but also over that additional space where they seem to be camping ships out. So it makes sense that he'd have a long-range cap over that space, and maybe that has a lot to do with why we haven't been seeing that much of a cap over Clark and Manila in the first place, because he's been pulling his ships out of there anyways, and he was keeping them in that adjacent space, so that's where the cap was. So yeah, we may not be as far ahead in the air campaign over Luzon as we thought we were, because the caps are still there. They were just not where we thought they were. That said, let's turn over here to Allied losses. They still took a bunch of losses as well. Their ops losses seems exceptionally high. Mostly with the Buffaloes. They certainly had a lot of Buffaloes airborne. But then also just taking air-to-air losses. You see they lost 6 P-40s and a Buffalo air-to-air. It's kind of interesting that, we had no outright shoot-downs of the Buffaloes. But apparently the damage they sustained in combat was enough to take them out, but some of them counted as air losses and others as ops losses. I'm going to guess that if it's an air loss, that means it never made it back to base. Well, if it's an ops loss, that meant it crashed at its airbase. But the damage it sustained was still a factor. Obviously, the Buffaloes are flying cap every day. Without being in combat, but they don't take 4 ops losses in a day. That stands out. So we haven't been looking at the charts too much. Just thought we'd take a quick look at it so we can kind of get some perspective about how the air losses today are relative so far. And we can see that for us, this is the second highest our losses have been for a day. Yeah, so what was going on turn 3 that we were it got so bad? Yeah, we lost 25 aircraft that day. I don't remember what we did on December 10th to cause that. Oh well. Okay, so turning to ship losses. So here's our losses for today. Almost all amphibious craft and almost all lost to bombs. Yeah, and all of these, so Cowabunga, Rabaul, that's all operations associated with our advancements in the South Pacific. So Kuching's the exception. I think this would have been damage sustained in prior turns. I don't think we had a PB damaged anywhere around Kuching today. And then the ship that went down that took a float plane with it would have been this, the Katori. Of course, on the Allied side, we were a little busy ourselves, so we're getting credit for one HGML sinking at Singapore. That's basically nothing. 2 more MTBs at Puerto Princesa. Again, basically worthless. They're saying we sank the Le Triomphant. I'm calling BS on that. I have no reason to believe that we hurt this ship bad enough to sink it. Same thing here with the O-16. It really seems that whenever a destroyer gets a solid depth charge connection on a submarine, as opposed to a damaging near miss, they always claim that they sank it. This wasn't reported in the combat report with heavy damage, so it's not dead. you got to at least score heavy damage on it to kill it. And then of course this patrol boat tender, or I'm sorry, aviation seaplane tender is the term I'm looking for. Also sunk at Puerto Princesa. We hit a lot more ships than this there. So in addition to all these, false reports of ships sinking here, there's probably a lot of ships absent from this list too. So silver lining, I guess. Alright, so just getting back to the map for a little more post-turn analysis. Yeah, the situation in China is just getting more and more fluid. We're seeing units intermingled all over the place. I think this was the hex where we noticed that we were strong enough to attack. And maybe some of these places are places we should back down for a little bit until we can consolidate. Of course, the most interesting thing is Hong Kong. Let's take a look at these guys. Oh yeah, look at that. Basically no disruption. Moderate fatigue with one unit, but fatigue no lower or no greater than 20 in all the others. So it may be time. And it may be time to switch some of these guys to airfield attacks. And that's going to be especially clear if we attack them and we see that they have, especially if they have level 2 forts again. Wouldn't that be awful? But I think we can expect level 1 forts, and really we should be able to keep that down to 0 if we're damaging their facilities. And unfortunately we're not hitting their port facilities with these port attacks enough to accumulate any damage over there. Malaya, we're still waiting on a lot of these units to move out. Little bit of good news, we now have 3 regiments in this space here, which is acting to block these guys in, so getting close to be able to move those guys to where the front line actually is, over here in Taiping. And I don't want to have to keep these tanks here forever, or I'm sorry, this recon regiment here forever. There's a dedicated garrison force arriving by rail. It's just going to take them probably another week to get here. We pushed these guys out, that's good news. These guys are going to be making a river crossing soon, but not next turn. And then we had that air attack on Singapore, which was probably a really, really bad call. But we've definitely got some tempting ships here in Singapore, and given the near success of this airstrike and the fact that we really didn't lose anything despite having a rather pitiful escort, makes me think maybe it's time to start hitting these guys. Yeah, we'll see about it. I'll think about it more when it's time to set up the turn. Contacts at Palembang for the first time. Just 2 ships, no classification. I'm going to say most likely, if it's just 2 ships in Palembang, that's probably ASW or Minesweepers. And as I said before, I really think it's early to start seeing reinforcements. I'm expecting reinforcement convoys to possibly be trying to get into Singapore, Palembang, Rangoon, those kinds of places towards the end of the month. Although Rangoon certainly could be happening earlier rather than later. Speaking of which, yeah, and we're sighting ships there. Really annoyed that we're not getting a classification. We have not only search planes that are going over Rangoon, but also recon aircraft scanning the space itself. So, come on guys, let's get some classifications here. Let me know what's going on. So down here in the rest of the Dutch East Indies, we really don't hold any contacts. Just PT boats in port, building up some bombers. Maybe I want to tempt those guys a little. Still one sub over here at Taui Taui. Still holding small numbers of port contacts in Balikpapan and Tarakan. Got enemy units trying to reinforce here. I believe that's who my airstrikes hit, so we're trying to knock them out of move mode and keep them out. A little bit of fatigue and disruption here. Nothing too serious. We are in contact here. So they moved 3,000 troops in 4 units that do not have guns and do not have AFVs. Curious. Very, very curious. These appear to be support units, given that they do not have artillery or AFVs. Probably going to just attack these guys. And again, this is an open space, as I think I've mentioned in previous turns multiple times. Whoever they are, they're going to be very vulnerable to airstrikes. So I'll be clamping down on my escorts and sweeps. Going to make sure that these skies are clear, since the aircraft, the bombers obviously have a lot of work to do. Still holding contacts here, still holding lots of contacts here, lots of contacts here in port. We hit these guys with battleships on bombard, but they're still kind of here. And, you know, once again, a story of the campaign. You know, the carriers move into range. They have orders to attack. Yeah, this is Tay, where these guys are. Oops. The Vals have orders to attack Tay. The Kates have orders to attack Tay. I mean, what else do they want? Why can I not get an airstrike against Tay when I'm in range and I have the orders assigned? It's frustrating. That is just really frustrating. And it just keeps happening over and over again. Alright. Let's go to where we really want to be. Let's put our search areas on. So, Lexington and Enterprise. Its numbers appear to be consistent to me with 2 aircraft carriers. I'd expect to see a whole lot more fighters than that if there were more. So early in the war, fighter squadrons tend to be about 18 aircraft. So they're a little bit over that with 41, but it would be sensible to supplement that with maybe some Marine Corps aircraft to bring the totals higher, although the presence of Vindicators might indicate that he's using Marine Corps aircraft in the form of bombers to bolster their presence a little bit. We're still seeing 14 bombers here, so I guess that's who attacked. I'm blown away that we can bombard these guys with battleships and they're still able to operate their aircraft. I mean, how does that happen? I don't see any airfield damage being reported. How? Yeah, I don't get it. You would think battleships would get the work done. Anyway, so they obviously know about these guys. We kind of have subs in position to maybe harass these guys if they want to come down, so that's good news. They aren't aware of these potentially vulnerable ships up around Truk. question. Damn. So I wanted to see if my air division had unloaded, and apparently the answer to that is no. That's going to be these guys right here. So they are unloading right now. And they are unloading with torpedo ordnance. So what might be really entertaining is if these guys decide they want to stick around and attack my battleship task forces and such again. That would probably be a mistake. Now, of course, they do have 41 wildcats and maybe buffaloes available to fight them off. So, and I guess it's just 27 Nels here right now, so that's not that many. Might be able to fly in more. They do not hold a detection on Carrier Division 3. They do not hold a detection on Carrier Division 1. And these guys are between them and home. At flank speed, I can move these guys 9 hexes per turn, which means I can move these guys up to 18 hexes. So that's basically to Renal, if I wanted to anticipate a southerly course and try to cut these guys off. Going to Renal would not put me in range of any active enemy air bases that could be flying dive bombers or torpedo bombers. It's possible they might send level bombers after me, but I'm not really concerned about level bombers. Assuming these guys have the same speed and can also move 18 hexes, on a southwestern course they get there. Just 10 hexes away from Renal, which would be too far. That would be too far for me. If I could get here. Might be a little behind them. Yeah, but we don't even know they're going to be at max speed. Yeah, so no guarantees here. But I might be able to box these guys in. Yeah, we'll think about it. We'll think about it. I mean, the thing is, they don't really have a whole lot of air forces. So, like, even if I did, like, get in range of, let's say I got in range of Numia, like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Are we going to be attacked by Banshees this early in the war? Or are we going to be attacked by light bombers like Vincent's or something? I mean, it just seems like it's probably too early for really anything but the carriers to be a major air threat. Yeah, wow. So maybe I don't need to really go after these guys with my hair on fire. Because if they're not even aware that I'm here, I could just kind of work my way south and maybe even just kind of wait for them to come to me. Like, it's not like he's going to exit to the east. He sure didn't come in through the east. If he came in through the east, we would have seen him. He came up from the south. So he's going to leave through the south. He's probably betting that my carriers are near truck. So if he thinks I'm near truck, he gets in, makes his hit. He knows truck's out of range as far as my carriers go. I'm not going to I'm not going to hit him. And then he figures he can outrun me at flank speed because he's already got a lead, right? He's got a 13 hex lead on me when this little race starts. Alright, so that... I mean, Cowabunga it is, dude. I got 5 subs that we can kind of set up a little barrier over here, anticipating a southern escape, and just kind of move these guys to the southeast. Yeah. Should be pretty good. I'm tempted to try to cast a wider net, like maybe let Carrier Division 1 approach from the east in case he wants to exit through the east, but he's so not going to do that. Like, he doesn't even hold detections on these guys. I wonder how many cruisers he has. Do I want to try to get into a surface fight with this covering force? Yeah, it might be careful what you wish for. This could very well be a formation with many heavy cruisers in it, since I haven't caused that many American losses. Alright, well, with all that speculation, I think that's probably a good point to end this post-turn conversation. Yeah, we'll see again for the setup of the next turn, and I'll let you know what I've decided once I've had a chance to really think about my strategy here. So, see you next time.